Hey, everybody, Sean Morris with Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit.
Yeah, and welcome aboard, Sean. This is Tim with the Fifth Ward podcast.
How you
And
doing,
look,
Timmy?
good, we got a lot of information, new stuff that just came over the wire, and let's get right into it. Hey, I want to first bring on up something going on there. It's down on the Saratoga Street. They want to rebuild Saratoga Street basically from Hot Dog Charlie's all the way on up to the end of 787. It's looking like a $9 million project. Um, what we got to do is we got to have like a matching grant. They're going to do sidewalks, new curbs, new street markings. They got to add a culvert down there, but we're going to end up as taxpayers going to have to dig up about $1.8 million, and I don't know where we're going to get it from, but the grant application has got to be put in within the next, I would say, 3 to 4 days. What do you think about that?
I think we live in fairy tale land with this clown in this city going full board on spending all this money, but they can't afford to put an ambulance in the fire department where we have
Yeah,
2 and 3 hour delays, right?
yeah,
I
and we're going to
mean,
have some new breaking news on that for tonight. Stuff that we
yeah.
dug
So,
into. It's pretty embarrassing for the city, and the people have a right to know.
yeah, I agree. So, hey, listen, if they can come up with the money to redo Saratoga Street, I certainly applaud that. That would be one of the great
Yeah,
things that happens in our city.
yeah,
Here's the way these things work, Timmy. The mayors of the cities have no say in the grants, right? We apply for them. They make you beg for your own taxpayers' money.
yeah,
And you're begging and begging and begging every year. And then the governor will say, I'm going to award the money to this city. And if you're lucky enough, you get some of the scraps that they stole from you in the first place, right?
yeah. They got $1.5 billion a handout, so
Yeah.
we're going to get maybe 10 million of that at most, and then we got to match it with about 1.8 million. So
Yeah, I think it's going to be a struggle for the city. We just had a podcast last week. We talked about the wasted money in these streetlights that they spent
yeah,
$6 million on putting us in the hole for the next 20 years. So
yep,
I don't know where they're going to get the money to redo Saratoga Street, but I would applaud them if, in fact, they can get the grant, have the matching funds. Maybe they're not going to buy an ambulance because they're putting the money away for sidewalks. Because they
yeah.
did get over $1.5 million in COVID money, which is free money to spend any way you like. The problem is they haven't spent it on the right things. Is not the
Yeah,
way I see it anyway.
and actually that was $3 million they got in
Well, then I'll
COVID
stand
in
corrected.
2021. Okay, and look at I mean we all kind of can agree. Saratoga Street looks like it's too narrow. It was built for what, horse and buggies back then.
It was built
Okay,
for horse and buggy.
right. I mean it's too narrow, and the telephone poles are on the opposite side of the street going to the homes. Okay, the sidewalks look like shit. I mean that is a road and a pathway coming into Cohoes that could really stand some big improvement.
Well, it's really
Plus,
an
yeah,
industrial neighborhood, right? Let's
yeah,
face it. I
it
mean, the
is.
city just took all of the poorest people who live in public housing and decided
Yeah,
they're going to knock it all down because it's
yeah,
unsafe to live there because of Norlight, which again I think is bullshit. Because there's a bunch of people that live on the other side of the street. Unless there's a bubble around Norlight and a bubble around Saratoga Street and a bubble around a couple of the other industrial facilities in that
yeah,
vicinity, it ain't going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference. So what are
yeah.
they going to put in that spot? So if they're going to reduce Saratoga Street, I imagine they have plans for some more industrial type stuff, and that's why they threw the homes away for all of these people living in public housing.
Yeah, and what they did is they just recently approved a three-car auto garage there, three stall to be put right smack next to Saratoga sites.
Timmy,
So
let's put things in perspectives, right?
yeah,
You got the Saratoga sites, and then 20 feet away is Hot Dog Charlie's, right? And then across the
exactly.
street, which is less than 15 foot away from the Saratoga site, you have all these people that own their own houses down there.
Right.
So is the city going to buy all their houses and say, "Hey, we had to close this down because it's unsafe. You shouldn't live here," and all of a
Yeah.
sudden now
Yeah.
we're going to have to pay for your houses too? It's
Yeah.
another imbecile move by people who have no clue what they're doing. I lived in those projects. My father
Yeah.
worked in Norlight 40 years. I grew up in those
Yeah.
places. Listen, people get sick. But I don't think it was just Norlight, right? You had
Right.
Bendix, you had Norlight, you had the dump, They used to dump every kind of poison you could imagine right behind Hot Dog Charlie's. It was a dump for years. And then you have 787 that kicks up 25,000 cars worth of dust every single day.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
Saratoga Street is where all the major trucks come through the city. So,
yep.
yeah, you know what? Nobody probably should have ever lived down there if they were going to make it an industrial roadway. But hey, I don't see how they can say one group, you got to get out of your houses, and the people across the street, you should be fine. It's just, it's kind of like the EPA and what you're seeing
Yeah,
in Ohio right now, right? It's just,
yeah.
you can't trust any of these bastards.
Well, what I'll do is I'll put a screenshot up on the Fifth Ward page for people to see what the actual project is looking like. But it's basically that street from Hot Dog Charlie's all the way on up to Ontario Street. Really, they want to redo both sides, all the sidewalks and everything. If we can do it, that would be great. I just don't know where we're going to get the money to do it. And that street is a vital street. And if they're working on that, I imagine traffic is going to have to get redirected.
Yeah, well, hey,
Anyway,
listen, I'll
we'll,
give them kudos if I see it get done. Outside of that,
yeah,
it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Hey,
yeah,
let me just remind everybody this is a joint podcast adventure between Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit and the Fifth Ward. And this really just focuses on our hometown. A lot of people wanted us to just talk about our hometown and the surrounding capital region. The first three, this is our third episode, Timmy, I think. And we
yeah,
focus mostly just on our own city, but it will span across the whole capital region because I think it's important. We're living close to Troy and Albany and Schenectady, et
yeah.
cetera, et cetera. But so if you're watching this podcast and you have any interest in the city of Cohoes, New York, 12047, or if you live in the capital region, you just want to hear what's going on, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And our title, I guess you would call it, is Cohoes, New York, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think Timmy was being a good guy trying to talk about some good stuff like Saratoga Street. The ugly part is about to come, I have a feeling, Timmy. I could tell just by
Right. Well,
your tone.
yeah. Well, keep in mind, okay, when they do the Saratoga Street project, they're also targeting to put electric vehicle chargers along that road. Now, I don't know how that's going to work on out because most of the uh, homes are on the left side if you're heading north. But we'll
Yeah.
have to see. But here we go. We're going into putting in electrical vehicle chargers along that route too. So, this isn't the first time here. We already targeted, I think, 6 or 8 stations at a cost of $80,000 to the taxpayers, recently approved by the council for electric vehicle chargers. But anyway, that's the whole purpose of this podcast and this page. I consider what we're doing as net citizens, putting information on out and letting people draw their own conclusion. And I hope that people can join our podcast. Very difficult to get people, especially in Cohoes, I'm finding, to want to jump on board and join in on the podcast.
No, people are scared, Timmy. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
you live in a small city. You have a mayor who's already showed to be a bully to the employees, and he doesn't really have any
yeah,
conversation with citizens, and so they don't know what to expect. Hey, look, at our job is just to lay it out there, let people hear what we have to say.
yeah,
They'll either like it, they won't like it, they'll tune
yeah.
in, or they won't. But
I
hey,
keep hearing
listen,
this. Yeah,
it is election time coming up too, Timmy. Right?
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I think this month. Am I wrong? Is it this coming
June,
month? The
June,
petitions come out.
well, petitions go out by, I think, before the end of March 28th, somewhere in that window. And I'm being told already that the ward boundaries and people's where they go to vote is a royalty mess.
Oh,
Okay,
of course, it's a
they
mess. We
they've
talked
got
about
it
that.
everything right, and it's even worse than what we know right now.
We
It's
talked about it in the first podcast on how they
yeah,
manipulated the whole city. They
yeah,
gerrymandered the lines so certain
yeah,
people can't run. This is the problem. Cohoes, New York is a bloodbath in politics. They don't really care about the people. It's all about themselves. How do we stay
yeah,
in power?
yeah,
And that's that's not going to change to me.
yeah.
I can't see it changing. But look at on the political note, it looks like we have a second ward. Don Russell, as you know, he's got himself into a little jam. He looks like he's going to have a challenger. I'm not exactly sure the name of the challenger. I'm just hearing that there is somebody going to run, maybe several people in the second ward.
Thank
Third
God,
ward, yeah, right.
thank God.
The third ward, they moved me out of it, so I couldn't take a seat
Yeah,
in that legislature. I think
yeah,
because they
and
think I was going to do that, although I wasn't.
And I got people that are in the that actually live in the second ward who are saying that they got moved into the first ward when their boundary hasn't changed, and
Yeah,
that's what's
people.
going
There's
on.
so much confusion because even the elected officials who are supposed to know everything about redistricting, don't know shit in the city Cohoes, and
Yeah,
that's the city council, right?
yeah,
They're just
yeah,
a bunch of raise my hand, do what I'm told, don't matter what my job is, give me my little check, and I'll move on.
yeah.
Sadly.
I like to refer to them as bobbleheads. Okay.
Well, maybe we should see if we can craft some
Yeah,
bobbleheads for
yeah.
and sell them
Bobblehead.
for.
Right.
We can pay for the ambulance, right?
Yeah, they sit there. Somebody starts running their mouth, and they in the council meeting. Next thing you know, the bobbleheads all start doing it. So
So third ward had nobody, and I don't know if anybody has yet announced Chris Biggs or Briggs. Chris
yeah,
Briggs. We got a Briggs, we got a Biggs, we got a
yeah,
Diggs.
yeah.
But Chris Briggs is not running again. I don't see no great loss for the city
Thank
on that
God. There.
front.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's the perpetual tax raiser right there.
yeah, he's never been anything
Perpetual.
other than he put us in this school tax bind where
Oh, he
most of
did.
us are paying $5,000 to $6,000 a year for a small little
Yeah,
school district.
yeah. He's
Um,
an automatic tax increase right there.
yeah, and the sixth ward, I heard a possibility, maybe a firefighter who's gonna maybe retire or not retire. He doesn't have to retire. There's a case
Yeah,
law out there from Glens Falls that said a firefighter could sit on the city council. So I heard, and that may be a big challenge now that Alicio decided to tell everybody he wouldn't support the redistricting and splitting the island, but he went ahead and voted to split the island after
yeah. He sure
since
did.
the history of the island, it's never been anything but an island because you
No.
would never split an island, only in Cohoes, New York, Cohoes, New York,
Yeah,
for those people who are watching. We
yeah,
split an island, at least a portion of it, just because they didn't want somebody to run for office. But he went ahead and lied and voted for it.
yeah. He
So
did.
shame on him.
Yeah, he did,
Um,
and he dumped really a large portion of his constituents, all the people on Admiral's Way, and pretty much everybody south of Bridge Avenue, I believe it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the way they were written was. If you looked at them from a layman's point of view, and even somebody who was in charge of a redistricting,
Yeah,
I couldn't make it out based on the terrible job that they did. They just
yeah,
they had somebody do it for them. That person got up and gave them a bill of goods, and they just all bobbled-headed, and their hand went up. And even
yeah,
Billy Smith, who I was disappointed in,
yeah,
he said he wouldn't vote for it as well, but he went ahead and voted for it. So they all they all fell in line. So I don't see anybody running in any other districts, but we do have somebody running against Keeler, right, for
yeah,
the mayor of the city, and that's Ed Kenner. So we'll
yeah,
try to get Ed on. We'll try to get the mayor on, see if he wants to come on our show.
yeah.
I doubt
Right,
he'll come on
bad chance
because
of that.
yeah,
Eh,
because I don't even know if he has a tongue because he doesn't talk unless
Well, let
it's
me tell you the
screwing the
situation with.
firemen.
I'll give you the most updated information on this guy. Okay, he goes out and does a state of the city. He has to rent a teleprompter at taxpayer expense, $500.
For what, his
So
10-minute speech?
for yes, for whatever is however long his state of the city was, he rented from Digital Express a teleprompter set up and all that other stuff. Okay, for $500, and that was billable to the taxpayers, city of Go. The
He should
guy
have called
can't.
me. He should have
Right,
called me. You do it free.
right.
There's a great one online that you can do for free.
Right. All he had, that's all he had to do. But see, this guy has no sensitivity towards the taxpayer dollars. Okay. That's why sent a letter to the fourth and fifth ward about his argument with the ambulance with the fire department. It's another $2,000 right there. Okay. So he
And his Christmas
spends,
cards.
right. And he spends city money recklessly as it's not coming out of his pockets. But think about it. What mayor in the past ever had to have a teleprompter and then had a company come in, set it on up just so he could do a 1 hour speech at most and charge us $500?
I
That's
guarantee you this, right? I
yeah,
mean, he didn't do an hour speech because he can't talk for that long. I mean,
no,
he's a pretty quiet guy. He doesn't say a whole lot, which is it's probably an attribute that's not best suited to be a mayor of a city. But There's actually a free one. I use it here sometimes on
Yeah,
my podcast. It's actually voice activated. It's a real good program,
yeah.
and it's free. So I could have saved the city $500 by showing them how to use it. But those are the crazy things that go on. You would say, it's not a big deal. Somebody's got a teleprompter, and it's not a big deal. But when you add 500 to that, $800 for this, and 500 for Christmas cards, and all these little things that if I did, they'd be coming with the Swiss Navy chasing me down the river trying to sink my boat.
Hmm. Well, they'd call
Because
the
no matter
FBI.
what I did, they came after me.
Well, they just get the FBI after you. That's
Well,
all.
yeah, that's
You know,
we're hearing a lot about them too. They seem to be a political arm of the Democratic Party these
they
days.
certainly do. But
Um,
look at it. I want to touch on the ambulance situation. Now, I got some new information, and people have to really understand what's going on here. So I'm going to spit out what I know, and I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this. Okay? So
sure.
right now, what I do know is that the council turned around. They approved $550,000 a year, but it's broken down more so $50,000 a month. Okay, and it's month by month for ambulance to turn in and provide us with one ambulance. Here's the problem: we in Cohoes, between the city and ambulance, we got to find a place to park and store that ambulance while they're waiting on calls. Okay, so it's going to have to be a building that's got phone access or radio access to communicate to send them out on a call.
Firehouse.
Second, right. So it's going to be in one of the firehouses or central. I don't know. That's going to be worked out. Now they do pay for all their fuel and their maintenance and all that stuff. But if you need to make a trip to a certain hospital, you're going to pay anywhere between, which is normal. They'll bill the customer between $1,500 and maybe $2,400 for that trip, and then there's a $27 per mile trip fee. Okay, charge for whatever reason that is, but it's $27.
Is that
Now,
who pays that, Timmy? The
uh,
city?
I imagine that ambulance would be billing the patient for that. Okay, but it's not very specific. But here's the killer: the ambulance is gonna have to have the seal of the city of Cohoes, okay, on the ambulance, suggesting that it is a city of Cohoes ambulance when it's really run by a private company. Now, here's the thing: is we don't even know what our seal is because the council never had a vote to determine that new Cohoes 150 with the wrong dates on that. That's not a seal. That's a gateway sign.
It's a gateway
Okay,
sign with their own dates.
with the wrong date. It's not a city seal. Yet they're probably going to be putting that on the ambulance,
Listen, that's just
suggesting
being
it's
a
a seal.
blowhard. Look at when every mayor puts on something because they have a slogan. Mine was Cohoes
Yeah,
Proud, and we put it on all of the stuff. He wants it on all his, but doesn't really make sense because that's not our ambulance. We don't own it. Why
yeah,
would you force the private ambulance company to put that on unless you're trying to mislead people to say, "Oh, see, we have our own ambulance here in the city."
and that's what's
Uh,
going on.
so it's like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on. And then on uh, as we move along with this here too, what you're going to find is that um, we're divided by railroad tracks. So that's going to present a problem, and I think it does with the fire department anyway. So they're only going to provide one ambulance, and they're suggesting that there's also going to be mutual aid associated with this. Okay,
Meaning what? We're gonna use that ambulance that's here is gonna go to other cities or vice versa.
Yeah, if somebody else needs it, they're going to end up sending that to another city or whatever. And uh, my guess is, my guess is that they would provide a backup one if is available for the city of Goals if ours is out on mutual aid or out on a call. That's what they're
Timmy,
suggesting.
where ain't they like stationed in Utica, their hometown or something? I mean, it's someplace quite far away. When they said, because I was talking to somebody and they said, well, if they really had a bad emergency, they'd have to send another ambulance up from their hometown. I thought they said Utica, which is an hour, 90 miles away or something like that, an hour and a half away. Look, let me try to just put this into perspective for you,
Yep,
right?
yep,
The city always had a and this is kind of like a beating a dead horse because we've talked about this 3 times, but it's that important. And every time a week goes by before our show starts again, there's more shit about the ambulance, right? The other
Yeah.
day they waited 2 hours. First and foremost, I would say this in defense of the city: 911 has become the go-to for every person who has an ache and pain in their body and wants to go to the hospital, because the hospital has become the replacement for the doctors. Because when you go to the hospital, they just treat you whether you have insurance or not, and the doctors, they won't, right? You have to have
Right.
insurance or they'll say we ain't going to see you.
Right.
So 911 has become a disaster. I've been saying it for 15 years. I would go on, when I was a Cohoes firefighter, if I went on 15 calls a day, every day, it would be every third or fourth day that I run into one that's a true emergency, right?
Right. 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 Right.
Someone's having chest pains, possible heart attack. Somebody's
Yeah.
having shortness of breath. Somebody's got COPD, they can't breathe. Somebody cut their arm and they cut an artery and they're bleeding like a son of a bitch. A car accident.
Yeah.
If you have one of those or two of those out of every single day, sometimes 2, 3 days before you actually have a real serious call. So a lot of times the fire department and all the resources for 911 are being tied up for somebody who's got a fucking bellyache, their foot hurts, their arm hurts, their toe hurts, got a headache, stuff you would drive yourself to the hospital for, right?
Yeah.
So let's put that on the top of the shelf, because that's important to understand. So the question is somebody sitting there waiting 2, 3 hours for a heart attack? I don't think that's probably happening or happened yet, but it could happen. And we're in the business of preventing things from happening. Our job is to be proactive and responsive at the same time, right? Proactive meaning we're always training and being ready to roll. Responsive means when the bell hits, we roll and bring out the best services. So
Yeah.
even if a majority of the calls that go on in the city are not the top life-threatening calls, you never know when somebody's calling you because they're going to have a baby. I delivered a baby. Um, I've brought people back whose hearts stopped. We rescued people out of fires. There's a lot of things that you do need an ambulance immediately for.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're not prepared, guess what? Eventually, it will bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
And so the city of Cohoes, I can understand. When I was the president of the firefighters union, I would say, listen, we want to run our own ambulance here. It was twofold. I had the interest of the members and giving them the best livelihood they could. And we wanted to control the service and be a better provider than a private ambulance. And the problem was, at that time, Timmy, the ambulance company was free, and it
Right.
would have
Right.
cost the city 250,
Yeah.
300,000 to let the fire department do it. So they would
Right.
say, no way, we're not investing $300,000.
Yeah.
John McDonald cut 400,000 out of the fire department. He was the first prick to start destroying the fire department.
Yeah.
He was a terrible adversary to the fire department. He didn't like EMS. He let old people lay on the floor waiting for ambulances for hours. He started this mess.
Yes, he
And
did.
it's
And it's
almost like he's telling Keeler what to do, because I almost feel like Keeler's the dodo bird to this guy. But
yeah.
anyway, you can understand the city's position, though. We got it for
Yeah.
free.
That.
It
Right.
works really good. Why are we going to invest 250,000?
Well, now you got
Fast
a diff.
forward.
Right. Right. Fast. Go ahead. I know what you're going to say though.
Fast forward. We
Yeah.
don't have a free ambulance any longer,
No. We're
and
looking at
so you
five
now
hundred
have to
fifty
look at
thousand now.
50,000 a month, right?
Yeah, 50,000 a month. That's
Right.
550,000 a year.
So now you have to start looking at whether bringing a fire department ambulance into our fire department makes sense.
Yeah.
The mayor has said, hey, it's 1.6 million. I'll stand corrected. It could have
Yeah.
been, I forget if he said 1.2, 1.4. Whatever he said, he's bullshitting you. Political bullshit,
Yeah.
because it doesn't cost $1.5 million. Our fire department only cost about 3.5 million.
Yeah.
So how can you run the whole fire department on 3.5 and say, if you bring an ambulance in and use the majority of guys on our department now, you might have to supplement them. How can you say that's going to cost $1.5 million? And then you have the revenue streams from ambulances bill people and their insurance. So there's a
Right.
revenue stream as well. So when you
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at all those things combined, he's telling people a line of bullshit. It's a John McDonald line of bullshit. I heard
Yeah.
that it was almost verbatim out of McDonald's mouth. I heard that shit from that guy for forever. So
Yes.
I think the citizens need to have an ambulance in the fire department now. I think the citizens deserve to have it. I think this guy has spent and wasted more money than any mayor that I know of, because he had a boatload. I left him a boatload, and then he got 3 million from COVID. So he's got more money than any mayor has ever had. I think he spends it poorly, and I think he hates the fire department because they stood up to him, and anybody
Yeah.
that stands up to him, he hates.
Yeah.
So I think we could put one in the fire department. I don't think it would cost even close to what he's saying. But I would ask him and the city controller and everybody else to provide truth, lies, and political bullshit and the Fifth Ward. Why don't you provide us the numbers that you have that substantiates that kind of expense so that we can debate it in the public? Because the public should have a right to debate instead of you just sticking a number in our mouth and telling us we got to believe everything you say.
Now let me update you even further. Okay, in this month-to-month agreement, it's stated in this contract, okay, that this is a temporary move so that the city can accept bids from other providers. And to me, that means the Cohoes Fire Department and those people, they know what they're up against, and they ought to put something together and see what they could do to come on up with something opposed to $550,000 a year. And I want to touch on something here. The contract that these people just approved, the Common Council, the bobblehead gang, they could not have read the contract. They could not have read it. Okay, in that contract, they're stating that insurance and all these other things going in there is applies with a city of Marlboro, New York, or wherever they're from.
The
But
hell's
they
that
got
mean? I'm
they
confused. Tell me what that
right.
means.
They don't have the city of Cohoes in the contract. The contract is about some other city.
So
So
you're saying that they took a
uh,
boilerplate contract from another
ex-
community,
exactly,
and the lazy bastards didn't make sure that they replaced Marlboro with Cohoes in all of the spots?
exactly what they did.
Or
And
are
what's
we
worse,
saying,
right? And the council members never read that contract. They
how do we
could
know
not
for
have.
sure that's the correct one? Where did you get a copy of
Right
that?
off the city website.
So the city posted the contract?
They did, and
Or
I.
did they put, or were they just so stupid that they posted the wrong contract, but yet the council voted on the right one? We don't know that. So that's another question. We should send an email and foil the um, the correct contract so that
Well,
we can
I,
see. I'd love to just
I,
see it because it just oozes all of the incompetence that they have. Timmy, they're
yeah.
incompetent at every level.
All you got to do is go on to the minutes of the last meeting, which I believe was February 14, when they had their special meeting. If you go into there and click on the link in the PDF file, that contract is right there.
Is it
And
signed on that contract that you looked at on the
it,
last page? Is it signed by both parties?
no, no, because it's proposed. It's a proposal for the Common Council to vote on
So the
during
council
the.
hasn't approved the $50,000 for the first round?
I believe they did vote for it after the special meeting. I'm told they did vote for this.
So there had to be
Okay,
something in writing to that
right.
effect.
Typically, after they vote, that's when the mayor and all the council they sit down and they sign the documentation.
Well, what
Okay,
happens is the council is presented with the resolution.
which
The resolution
yeah,
specifically states what they're going to do. The
yes,
contract itself, you're correct, would be drafted up by the city attorney, and then the
right,
mayor would sign the contract.
right,
And what
right.
you're saying is the contract that they posted for you to read's got the wrong city in it.
Yes, that's absolutely true, and
And
I
are
can
you
prove
shocked
it.
by that?
No, not actually. I'm not. I see it all the time. Okay, but this is a $550,000 contract,
Well,
Sean.
you have a
How
city
do you get
that's
that wrong?
you got a city that's got a $30 million budget, and you can't even fucking figure out what date it was incorporated.
Which is
so,
true. And
so I mean, if they don't know when the city was incorporated, why would you expect them to
so
put in
what
the
I'm
contract the
right,
correct date?
and to prove my point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post screenshots of certain sections of that contract where they make reference to the city of Marlboro. And, so we're insuring it like this, we're insuring that, we're doing that, and riders and all that, and they keep mentioning the city of Marlboro.
Yeah,
Okay, it
that's
should have said
amazing.
the city of Cohoes. They used a template, put that template in front of the council members. They never got a chance or didn't bother to read the contract, and they sat there like bobbleheads, and they voted to approve the $50,000
Well,
more.
that's what you
They should
get.
be ashamed of themselves.
You got to have some kind of. You can't be ashamed of yourself if you don't have those some standards, right? There's no standards with these people, for
They
Christ's
don't
sake.
look at they don't even self police
You know
themselves.
what? If
That's how they
anybody's
got to
listening,
that point.
if anybody's listening to our podcast and we're just not talking to ourselves,
Yeah,
who the hell knows, right?
I hope
But if
you're recording
anybody's
this.
listening, or if they're going to watch it after we post it secondhand, call your council member and ask him for a copy of the ambulance contract, and ask him if the city of Marlborough is like the sister city of Cohoes or something, and we don't know
Yeah,
about it because you want to know why they would have the
yeah.
wrong contract posted on the website.
Yeah, it's right there. Right, anybody can go and read it. All you got to do is go to the city of codes, go to the agenda and minutes, click on Common Council, and look at the date of February 14, and then you're going to see they had a workshop and a special meeting. Right in during the special meeting, it shows a PDF file. You click on that link, and then here you got probably about 30 pages of things to read through, and on the bottom section is where the contract is that the idiots, the bobbleheads, voted for without even reading the damn thing.
It's
So
shameful. It's just
it is.
shameful. You
So
just you
this
shake
is
your head
why,
and you say, "Holy
yeah,
shit! Can it get any worse?" And
yeah,
I guess it can get worse and
it's
worse
right.
and worse. And so I want to kind of go back down to the Norlight situation, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, here's a company that's been in the city since I'm 55. My father worked there for 40 some years.
yeah. You're just a
Um,
baby.
yeah, but I lived there my whole life in this, and so I lived in those projects. Um, I really just think that the mayor of the city and a couple of these tree hugging, green lover, left wing whack jobs who think that the whole world's going to cave in if
Yeah,
we fucking turn our gas stove on and cook food. They just want to close down this private company that employs people, and they're all making 80, 90,000. It's good jobs, and they just want to close it down because you know what? I live up on the. Yeah, I live in the kind of like the middle of the city, right? I live on
yeah,
the middle of the city. The mayor lives just a couple, quarter mile away from me. Every once in a while, Norlight will call because we instituted a requirement that they call everybody because they still dynamite in the quarry,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
they have to get the shale so they can make the lightweight aggregate, right?
yeah, yeah.
And they'll say, "Hey, we're going to blast at 2," and all of a sudden at 2 o'clock, you'll feel like your house shook a little, right? He
Right.
don't want his house shaken, so he'll go
Yeah,
to such great lengths to do anything he can. He's been saying it forever. He hates the place, wants to close it down. That's the mayor of the city. You got a great business. You have people complaining about the business every year. They live in the projects. I live there. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a mill, but you have
And,
other mills.
and
It's not the
Sean,
only mill.
yeah, and Sean, that area is it's zoned as industrial.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, it's an industrial zone. There, it's for industry.
You
So
got Mohawk Paper, you got
yeah,
Norlight,
not down
Bendix used to be there. You got a
for,
highway. You got
further down the road. You got Troy Belt, which is basically what Maplewood,
yeah.
and so every now and then, you'll see a house here and there, but really that area in Cal is zoned industrial.
Well, what I'm trying
It's
to figure out though is, and nobody will answer the questions,
yeah,
is where are all the people going that live there? Where
yeah,
did you place them? And number two, what are you going to do with the site if the site is unsafe? Like you say, it's unsafe for people
yeah,
to live there.
yeah.
What are you going to put there? You just got to just close it down and put tape around it and say this is a unsafe facility,
Right,
unsafe
and
property.
and why it makes no sense for them to approve allowing a new automotive repair shop to be built right on the land, right smack next to Saratoga sites. So
Yeah,
you can build and work there, but you can't live there.
but you can work at Hot Dog Charlie's where you can spit from one part of the projects to Hot Dog Charlie's.
Yeah,
Again, I don't want to reiterate it 100 times, but I just think it's
just built it.
really they were disingenuous. They want that piece of property for
Yeah,
something. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to come along, put a business there. at the expense of taking people in our community that have lived in them projects. Some of those people that lived there, I grew up with, still living there 50 years later, right?
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
wish they would have been able to get out of the projects, but look, if people have circumstances and sometimes they can't get out,
Yeah.
sometimes the system sucks you in, right?
Yep.
But they just been uprooted from where they lived their whole life. I want to know why. I want a better answer than, oh, Norlight, because bullshit. Norlight just spent $30 million to build an enclosed system where all of the burning and stuff takes place inside of one building. It's all scrubbed before it even gets out of that building. And it's the state of the art, the best of the best. They
Yeah.
still have their problems. Look at we have a terrible thing that happened in Ohio, right? The train derailed,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and look at that, decimated, and that's going to be. I don't think they'll ever repair that. I think people are going to have to leave their property, their investments, their lives. I just think the EPA is full of shit. I think they're being lied to. How? But the moral of the story is, you don't hear the president, you don't hear anybody going to the aid of those people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Norlight
Right.
spills 100 gallons of diesel, and you got John McDonnell, Neil Breslin, and every fucking politician who wants to be like, look at me, I'm here to save the world,
Yeah.
ready to close them down.
Right. Yep.
And
That's what's
that
going
goes to
on.
show you, if
Yeah.
they hate you and they don't like you, they'll fucking beat the shit out of you. You'll ruin your business. They'll close you down. They don't care.
Yeah.
If they
And
like you,
yeah.
or if somebody's a big contributor to your campaign, you hear pin drops. You hear it. You don't hear
Well,
a fucking thing.
Norlight was donating, I think, $100,000 to the city.
They would give us an additional $100,000 that we can use undesignated for anything, for recreation,
Right.
for anything.
Yeah,
Um,
$100,000 was
when I
not
was the
fit.
mayor of the city, they stopped giving it to us. I called them up, said, "No, you're going to give it to us." We worked out a deal. They gave
Yeah.
us the money back, right?
Yeah.
This guy went after them. They canceled the 100,000. And what's he going to do with the tax base if he loses another $200,000? The guy's
Yeah.
an idiot, and he just keeps pushing people, spending money, and he's putting us so deep in the hole that we're never going to go out or get
Yeah.
out, I should
Well,
say.
well, look at that. I'm looking forward to my $18 tax deduction and in my March bill when it comes here. Probably within another week, I'm going to see if I got my $18 all in one shot, or am I going to get nine in March and nine in September? Okay.
Yeah. So that
But
that's another political facade, right? We're
sure.
going to
Yeah.
cut. We're going to give back taxes. You're giving back taxes while you're saying you don't have the money to pay for the ambulance services into the fire department because it will cost too much money. It
That's
just,
just,
everything they do contradicts the other thing, right?
that's
And
right.
I don't think they're evil people. I don't. I think they're incompetent to how you run a community.
I
I don't
agree.
think they're smart enough to be involved in running a municipality when most of them have no experience. And this is what you
Yeah.
get when you have no experience. There's nobody to blame but the people that vote.
Yeah.
So you
We
vote somebody in because you think he's a state trooper. All I can say is either the state troopers could be run by anybody, I should say,
a super
without
bobblehead.
any kind of
Yeah.
strong background, because he ran them. Then
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
comes here and it's a nightmare. So either you don't have to be the smartest guy in the world to run the state troopers, or guess what? You spent your whole life only knowing one thing, so you're pigeonholed into that one thing, and maybe you do that one thing good. But in the
Yeah.
city, there's a lot more than one thing.
Yeah.
And
He's
so
over it.
far, it's been
I,
pathetic.
Sean, I just think he's out of his league and he's over his head. Okay, and look at in 150 years of Cohoes. Okay, first time we have to have an assistant city planner. We're so busy, but I don't see anything going on in the city.
And I'd
Okay.
also like to see if they were civil service jobs, because there's no way in the world they can just create these jobs and just appoint their friends without making it a civil service position. So we'll look
Well,
into that as well.
yeah, well, you know what? All you got to do is go to the city website and go to agenda and meetings and just scroll through all the different boards and council and what you're going to see is their dates. Just look at the dates. The last time the board of managers met, according to the city website, was in July of 2021. Okay, where is the updates? And there are certain boards like the historical board, they're up to snuff. They got their stuff right on up to snuff. All right, but you go down to our council that's reasonably up to date. But if you wanted to find out what's really going on with the board of managers, you can't find out because they stopped posting when they meet in any of their minutes after I went after them for not being transparent.
And
So
that's
what did
against the
they do?
law for the open meetings law.
Right. And so what did they do? They became less transparent.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't.
Look at they
And you
walk
know,
around oblivious to the reality. They don't care. You know.
Sean, I blame the council members.
I blame them
Okay.
all. It ain't just the
Okay.
council, Timmy. It's
Right.
everybody.
Yeah, but okay, the council is the supreme legislative body in the city.
Yeah,
And
but
they,
this is a strong mere form of government. So why
yes, it
they are the
is.
supreme after they pass the budget,
Yeah.
they're not supreme no more. They become advocates for their neighborhood,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
really what happens. And the
Innocent.
way
Yeah.
they be right, and the way they become strong advocates for their neighborhood is they say, "Hey, if you want us to pass this stuff, I'm not voting for it unless you help my part of the city." That
Yeah.
goes back to the redistricting, the community of interest,
Yeah. Yeah.
why you have a certain individual representing you, but they don't. None of that matters because they don't care. They walk around their heads are in the clouds. They're
Well,
in they're in the Norlight dust. They're so
I
concerned
can't
about.
get look at if I send an email off to a council member, they don't respond. I don't bother emailing Kremer because he's the city attorney. He doesn't answer to me. If I email Biggs, who's the Fifth Ward council member, what I get back is 2 or 3 days later. Oh, I'm just saying this, despite me sending it to his personal email and his city email.
Well, Tommy
And
Dion's running against him, so I would send it to Tommy because I'm sure he's going to win. The guy's a class act. He's got a lot of support, and you
well,
know
if
what? The one thing I would tell you is if you needed him, he'll be there for you. He's a good man. I
yeah,
liked Adam. I supported Adam. I
so
like
did
him.
I.
My whole family supported him. I know that they won't support him again, and I never talked to anybody about not supporting him. You don't have to. All you have to do is see a young guy that had great intentions that ran
Yeah,
against a puppet and became even more of a puppet,
right. And
unfortunately.
and what we say here too is if there's anybody out there that's running for office, um, I'm encouraging them to come on here, get on the podcast. It's free publication, a way for you to get your voice put on out there, and you'll be able to say things, whatever's on your mind, what you're hearing from the constituents, and we're a voice here. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, one of the other things I thought was pretty good about the city, however, is, as part of that $6 million bond for the lights,
Yeah.
that is going to go down in history as the biggest blunder probably in the city history.
Yeah, it's going to financially cripple us down the
Yeah,
road.
I
Yeah.
think besides that, there's parts in that look to upgrade our parks. And
Yes.
I come off of Columbia Street. I drive through the park to come to my house every day. And before I left, we put aside a little bit about 250,000 to upgrade parks from the last bond.
Yeah.
Have no idea. Certainly didn't use it because there was no upgrades. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's 250 that I put aside and some of the money out of the new bond. But one of the plans that we made and promises was a dog park. And
Right.
we were going to put it up next to where they have that half-ass skating.
Yeah. Those half pipes.
Yeah, those half
Right.
pipes.
Right.
Those kids.
Right. Yeah. Right
It's a
behind the
very
middle
busy little
school.
thing, but the kids deserve a lot better than that
Uh,
shithole that they
yeah.
got up there.
It was right behind the middle school where
But it looks to
that's
me
all
like
torn out.
Yeah, it looks to me like where I was going to put the dog park, they're starting to cut down trees and everything. It'd be interesting to see. I'd really applaud the city big time if, in fact, they put that dog park up there because I think that is something that's really good. We have a lot of beautiful pet owners in the city. We have a lot
Yeah.
of people who live in apartments that don't have yards. It'd be really nice to see. So I'm hoping that some of that park upgrades start taking place. We also need some swings and stuff for kids that are handicapped. We don't really have no handicap accessible swings or anything. So
Yeah.
I really hope that part of the money they put aside, and I applaud them if they do,
That
and if
would
they
be
did put
nice.
it away, would be to take care of the kids with disabilities. Get a dog park up there, clean up those old shit shacks, and these are separate shit shacks
Not the Napier
from the
shacks.
Napier shit shacks, but the ones that used to be the boys' locker room and all them. They should
Yeah.
probably just knock those buildings down. They've been up there. Or what I was going to do, truthfully, is turn them into a drop-in center. I just don't know if today those kids would be safe in a drop-in center because they have more fights and guns and violence with kids today that I think I'd be scared of that. But I think the city should be really proud of itself if, in fact, it's going to turn our parks that are really hurting into these beautiful state of the art parks. So keep your
Yes.
fingers crossed. That'd be one of the great things that we see if, in fact, it really does happen.
Yeah. Now look at what is in the works right now is the waterside apartments down basically behind Kelman's, right?
Yeah.
Now they've got paperwork in right now. They're looking to build a dog park behind the buildings there, so they want to have a dog park there for the residents, and they're also looking to put in a boat launch for access to the river.
So
Okay.
are you talking about the new ones by 112th Street?
No, I'm talking about the ones at Waterside, which I believe is the apartments right across from Kelman's.
Yes.
Waterside.
So,
Now,
so
to get access to the water, okay, you got to get state approval and all these other. So they're looking. So I've seen a map, and I'll post it on the Fifth Ward page. What they're looking to do is put a dog park in there for maybe for the seniors, and they're showing a little access way for people to go back in and put boats in the water right behind
Well,
the
part of
waterside
the
apartment.
requirement, and I don't know what happened after I left, but part of the requirement for the new development by the 112th Street Bridge
Yeah,
was that they were going to put in water. They had to put in water access and kayaks and a whole bunch of stuff. So that was all part of the plan that we put forth. That had nothing to do with this city. One of the things you'll realize, Tim, is that sometimes it takes 2.5, 3 years to see the results of what you did 3 years
yeah, yeah,
before.
yeah.
Like all of the new development you see on Main Street, all that had nothing to do with the current administration. That's stuff that we did back when I was in office.
Right, right.
Same thing with when I was when we finally got all the money to stop people from getting hit on 787, turned it
Yes,
into the boulevard. There was also a deal in the works that there was going to be a car wash, and it was going to be on the other side where Kelman's is trying to buy up that piece of property, and there was
yes,
going to be a cutoff put in so that the car wash, you'd come down the 787, be able to turn off, get your car wash, turn back on, and go. And it was a great spot to have because you couldn't build houses or anything there because there was still contaminated dirt, and you could
yeah,
still be on there for X amount of hours, 10 or 12 or 13 hours a
yeah,
day. I forget how many it was, but you couldn't be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the car wash was going to be a great fit. Somehow they took the car wash and they put it over on another piece of property that I think is a waste because why I'm excited for the car wash to come. That's one of the most prime pieces of real estate. We were working with different grocery stores to put a brand new supersized grocery store there.
hmm
Um, and then it turned into we were going to have apartments there because there were great access to 787. But somehow they made some moves and they're putting a car wash there. But I'm excited for the car wash. It's going to
yeah,
be something, we have a nice one, believe it or not, up on top of Columbia Street. Don't be
yeah,
afraid to use that one.
yeah.
It's
It's a
important
nice
to go
one.
up there. I use it all the time. It's a great car wash, right?
Yes, it is. It's easy
So
to
I hope
use.
that that big one doesn't replace the little one, but I think there's a need for both. But
I think it's further
Hoffman's
enough
is
apart.
Hoffman's car wash is going to be excellent, and I applaud the city for continuing to get that
Yeah,
process done as well. So
yeah,
I'm really happy that the city made the decision to put that there. I think a lot of people will use it, and it's going to be one I think that has the free vacuums that everybody can
yeah,
vacuum the
yeah.
car.
It does.
State
They
of the
just
art.
Yeah, they got all they're going in there now to get all their signs and everything approved by the city planner and all that stuff. So they're moving along. I'm going to get some updated photos there as soon as the weather improves. Eventually I'll get a drone down there, take a
Yeah, so
fly
there's some
around.
good stuff happening. I mean,
Yeah,
whether they did it or it's the the progress that we
yeah,
did, it doesn't really matter. What it matters is that the citizens are seeing some nice amenities come to the city, right?
yeah,
And and I think that's important for the
yeah,
city's morale because I think the morale's a lot lower than it's ever been in a long time.
yeah,
At least to the people, I got people texting me, Timmy, that said I never voted for you, wasn't ever going to vote for you, but if you ran tomorrow, I'd vote for you. And
yeah,
they're asking me all these questions, and I'm like, it's easy to think that when things are going good, it's easy to do,
yeah.
and then you realize it ain't so freaking easy to do, and
Right.
now they're feeling that pain because the
Well,
city's in big
well,
trouble.
I'd like to, you know, here's what I get all the time. I get the same thing all the time, and I don't solicit this information. People just say the same thing, whether it be fire, whether it be DPW, that this mayor is cold. He's vindictive as hell. Vindictive is what the word. And there is a genuine fear of working in the city of Cohoes under this administration.
Listen,
Okay.
I'll tell you something, Tim. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned it before. I'm not going to
Yeah.
mention no names or nothing.
Yeah.
But can you imagine an employee of this city who's never been in trouble in his entire life, doesn't even
Yeah.
have a write up in his file, gets
Right.
suspended for 45 days for not cutting the fucking grass when they
That's
told him?
it.
Okay, so let's say, okay, what was the reason the guy that's been here all this time, great employee,
Yep.
didn't cut the grass? Well, hang on, because I'm in charge of something else that's really important, and I had to
Right.
do that first. They're
Right.
just a vindictive pricks. That's all they are.
Yeah.
That's why they're
Yeah.
going after the fire department. That's why they go after DPW. That's why they go after everybody
And you know
because
what? And that's why I go after them.
that's
Okay.
why we have Cohoes, the good, the bad, and ugly.
And
But hey, the city's bigger than the mayor of a city, right?
yeah,
We have
that's
all of the stuff has happened is going to happen whether he's here or not. The
yep.
city always continues to move and shake, regardless of who's the mayor. We have some good things to work off of.
Yep.
I'm excited by some of the things I see. I'm terrified by many of the things I see. If it was a chess match, I think he'd be losing really bad, even though he's made a couple good moves.
Well, he
Um,
could. This guy can't play checkers.
or, well, I wasn't a great checker player either, Timmy. But so I think that's a few of the good things that are going on. I think the ambulance is going to just keep haunting us on this show and everywhere else because it's such an important subject to talk about. And I think what we should do is we should just keep taking the information and providing
Yeah.
it to the people. You
Hey,
know.
and, yeah, and Sean, as we wrap this up, I want to put it on out there. Cohoes Fire Department, a lot of this is in your hands. Okay, the contract, and if you go on there and read that fake contract, okay, with the wrong city and all that info, it makes it very clear. And I'm going to post it on my page, Fifth Ward, that this is temporary, and that the city is accepting bids and offers and all that stuff for an ambulance service, and that's what's written in this contract. So if the union and these people can find a way to come together, why should the taxpayer pay out $550,000 a year when we already have the tools, the buildings, the manpower, the know-how to do it ourselves? And other communities such as Freeport, New York, is doing it, and they got a population of 20,000.
To me,
So
it's not whether or not it can happen; it's whether they have the will to make it
the
happen.
yeah,
I'm telling you that I'll be Nostradamus. What did you call me the other day?
more
Nostradamus?
more Morstradamus.
More Stamus, all my predictions, right?
Um,
I will predict that John McDonald's pulling every string for this guy
yes,
because
he
it's
is.
like watching the same thing regurgitate when I was the president of the union
Yeah,
15 years ago. Same exact arguments, same exact bullshit. This guy's not smart enough to just come up with these numbers on his own.
no,
Somebody's feeding him these numbers.
yeah,
It can work. It will work. It
yeah.
is now the time that you have to use it because the days of the free ambulance seem to be over.
That's it.
So we have
That's
no
it.
other choice. The
That's it.
question is, how do you implement it into the fire department, slow and steady, so it's a great
Yep.
project, right? How do you make it work for the most cost-effective way,
Yep.
and how long does it take to make it happen? And
Yeah.
in the meantime, unfortunately, you have to get an ambulance like this company here,
Yeah.
and you got to pay them while you're transitioning into building it into your
Yeah.
fire department.
Yeah, and I would imagine guys like, I know that Otto Matson there, he's been doing this, what, 23, 24
Otto's
years?
a very smart guy when it comes
Right.
to ambulance. There, I don't know if there's anybody better than Gary Favreau. He was
Yeah.
over in Troy.
Yeah.
He brought the first ambulance to the city of Troy
Yeah.
against all odds.
Yeah.
The it was like swimming up the creek with the strongest occurrence against him, but he
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
it. He
Yep.
got the political people on board. He got the fire department on board. He got the administration on board, and here they are running their ambulance. The other part of having your ambulance now you can also participate in the mutual aid system.
Exactly.
There's
That's
also
what's
now a
wanted.
quid pro quo. Right? I can give you the ours if you need it. You give us yours when you need it.
Yeah.
Maybe the fire departments have to come up with a centralized. You'll probably never see a centralized county fire department
Right.
because there's too many different unions and contracts and
Yeah.
expenses and money. And but maybe the fire departments can collectively have ambulances, right?
Something. Yeah.
And use
Well.
that as a way
Well.
to address all of the
Well.
concerns. I think they're going to have to figure out how to stop making 911 the automatic way to take somebody with a bellyache to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to have to figure out how that all comes into play. But in the meantime, they got to be a little smarter than they are.
Well,
They
I
got to
think it's an
communicate.
opportunity,
They
right?
got
And
to
it's
communicate
yeah.
with the citizens because nobody knows what the hell's going on. So they don't communicate well, right? They don't
Yeah.
administrate well.
Yeah.
They don't understand very well. They don't seem to care. They do that well, right?
Yeah.
And so
Well,
you
you're
have
talking.
this administration that they don't tell you nothing because they don't know how to communicate with you, and they don't listen to nobody because it's their way or the highway. And in the end, this is what we have: a city that's falling apart. And it ain't just a fucking ambulance, Timmy. I mean, we
Yeah. It's
have
everything.
garbage all over the streets.
Yep.
You go down by the Dollar General there, the garbage everywhere. The little strip mall, garbage everywhere. There's garbage bags hanging in the trees. You got things happening that we cleaned up a long time ago, and that didn't happen no more. You go down. I was down on. I went down. Yeah, every once in a while. No secret. I'm going to go have a couple cold beers. Right. I went downtown. I don't go downtown a lot no more. I went downtown on a Friday. Now, 3.5 years ago, Mike Jacobson, God rest his soul, we sat into my office on a Friday night, 9 o'clock, because we were still working, and it decided we would take a walk down because we were talking about trying to convince the council to let me bring in a parking garage because you couldn't park anywhere. Every business that we brought in was mobbed. We walked down at 9 o'clock at night, and every bar and restaurant was packed. Tables, hour wait for a table. Music halls got plays going on. Bands are playing. It was a Saratoga feel. We had the
Yeah.
new sidewalks with the bump outs so people could put tables outside. It really was this great feel for a city of Cohoes, like this live
Yeah.
comeback. It was
Well.
our big moment.
Well, we had bling. We had some
Yeah,
bling.
we had some fucking bling. So I went down to Bling on Friday night, and guess what? There was two people in one bar, nobody in the other bar. The restaurants were closed, 9 o'clock at night, and one bar had maybe a handful of people.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I could shoot a bazooka down the street right now and nobody would get hit. And three
Yeah.
years ago, we couldn't even find a place to park a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're heading in the city, and it's disheartening. I hope the businesses can hang on. I believe that eventually change will come. Good things will happen. It will be hard to resurrect a city that was dead and and resurrected it, and now you got to redo it.
Yeah.
But I hope they have faith. There's a lot of good things in the city. There's a lot of great people, and I still have a lot of hope.
Yep.
So
Well, we'll
hey,
get.
anyway, this is Sean Morris from Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit.
And this is Tim with the Fifth Ward.
And hey, we're going to sign out. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast about our city of Cohoes. And we're going to keep digging in to find some good stuff to talk about, some bad stuff to talk about, and some ugly stuff to talk about.
Right.
And until then, God bless you and have a good night.
And
Good night, Tim.
right, and you whistleblowers, keep sending me information. Thank you and good night.
Amen.